welcome to the Lovebird Lane podcast. I do not know what episode we are up to. I wasn't podcasting last week because I was unwell, but I will talk about that probably through the podcast. I'd like to welcome you to the podcast. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm feeling a little flat still at the moment. I guess I'll talk about it now because we're here and we're talking about it. I had very bad sinus last week, and I basically felt like I had elephants sitting on my face, and it really wasn't very pleasant. So I wasn't feeling very bright. I'm not feeling very bright today, even though the elephants have gone away, which is good. I think a lot of it's to do with my mental health at the moment. I'm not happy, but I'm not sad, and I'm just feeling very, very flat. I'm thinking about going to, I need to go and see my GP anyway, and I'm thinking of perhaps asking if we can reduce my medication a touch, because I'm thinking that perhaps it's turning me into a little bit of a zombie. So so that's kind of where I'm at. I am a little bit flat, but I am here recording because I obviously physically feel better today. So hopefully the episode is okay. I have a couple of finished objects. One of them is here, and and a couple of things that I'm working on. I do have something that I forgot to show you, and I still have it. I haven't given it to its recipient just yet, so I will show you that as well. I have a thread. I do not know if any of you are aware. I have a Ravelry group, and there is a thread in that Ravelry group that is for my customers of my yarn to share their finished items in that thread. So if any of you don't follow me on Instagram and you haven't seen that, I do have a Ravelry group, and B, a thread where you can actually go in the draw to win a $10 gift certificate to the shop every month. So all you need to do is put in your finished Lovebird Lane project for the particular month, and you go in the draw to win $10 to use in my shop. So if you would like to be in the draw, head over there. There is a share your projects thread and the month, so pop your project in there to be in the running. Let's start talking about some finished objects. I can start with the one that's behind us, because you can clearly already see it. It is my no frills sweater, and I finished it last week, I believe, and I'm really, really happy with it. It hasn't had a block as yet, but I have got 2 sleeves, and and she's all finished. I have tried her on, and she fits really, really lovely. She'll be very warm and cozy and comfy for winter. The only thing that I'm unsure about is it seems a touch short. So even though I spoke in the last episode, I think it was, about making the body longer than was called for, it's actually still, I feel, a little bit short, but I do have a very long body, so that's possibly the reason for that. So what I was thinking I would do, I still have plenty of leftovers of my Velveteen yarn, which is the purple and burgundy and black speckle that you can see in my sweater. I do have quite a bit of that left, so I thought what I would do is give this a block, see if it drops at all, if it gets a little bit stretched, and if it doesn't stretch to a length that I am comfortable with, I may pull out my bind off and my ribbing and add a little bit more length, and then redo my ribbing and bind off. So that's probably TBA at this stage, because like I said, I haven't blocked it just yet. We're going to have a lot of hot weather again next week, so it's probably going to be a good week for me actually to get that done, and to wash some other knitwear that I have floating around that I'm going to be passing on to friends and whatever, because I have started my my discarding for my Marie Kondo method discarding, so I can talk about that a little bit later. I've got quite a bit of knitwear to wash and block, so yeah, next week will be good for that because it's going to be hot. Yay, because I love the heat. No frills sweater. I think I probably said everything that I want to say about it. I am still finding mohair all over my house from the knitting process, and which is a little bit bothersome, but it's not anything that my vacuum can't deal with. But yeah, I definitely still want to knit another one. And yeah, I just need to figure out what colorway I want to use. I think I want to use Fletcher. I think I mentioned that before. One of my colorways, Fletcher. So that's probably what my next no frills will be out of. But for now, I am working on other whips. So I guess I can talk about my second FO before I move on to whips. And they are a pair of socks. I will just subtly reach across. And I've forgotten to put these on blockers, but that's okay. You'll be able to see their socks. They look like socks. And these are just a pair of vanilla socks, and I think I showed these off in the last podcast, and these are socks knit from Squiggle Yarn Co., which is another Adelaide hand dyer. And I finished my socks, so there we go. These again were on 2.25mm needles, so that's just a touch smaller than my regular 2.5, and it is a firmer fabric, and I'm hoping that these will not stretch out as much as my regular socks do. And these are just my regular vanilla sock pattern, which you can find on Ravelry, just on the slightly smaller needle. And I really like these. They are very bright, they are very fun, and I'm looking forward to wearing them. I did try them on, and I'm possibly going to need to figure out a way to get some more stitches or width in my instep, because I can see that the stitches are quite stretched across that part of my feet, but I guess I did want them tighter. So hopefully they don't stretch as much through wear. So I guess the proof is going to be in the actual wearing of them. I possibly could even put these on today because my feet are a little bit cold. It's actually quite a cool morning. It's going to be 27 degrees overall, but yeah, our mornings have been quite cool, which is lovely for walking the dog. But yes, I have a finished pair of socks, and they may get some use this afternoon. And my final finished object is one that you have seen before. It is some weaving. It is that scarf, the Faerie hair scarf that I have shown you before. And it's Lorna's Laces as the warp, which is these, the long bits, and it's Wool and Vine Yarn's Faerie hair across. And like I said, I'm going to gift this to my sister-in-law, but last time that you saw it, I can't remember whether I had blocked it or not. No, I don't think I had, because I was waiting to do my tassels. So I got my my twister out, and I made my tassels, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. I thought perhaps that they might have been a little bit thick, but looking at other people's hand-woven scarves and things like that, they look about the same. So I'm pretty happy with that. And I gave the fabric a little bit of agitation in the blocking soak, and it has filled in really nicely. It's actually filled in more than my original wrap did, so I'm possibly going to put my wrap back in and give it another bit of a wash with a little bit more agitation, just to get it to fill in, because the other one's a little bit holy, you know, like holes. Yeah, whereas this one's a little bit more filled in, so it's possible I might give the other one another bath with a little bit more agitation. But yes, I'm very happy with my tassels. I think they turned out quite well. They are, I mean, it's my first time doing it, so they're not all 100% exactly the same length, but I figure when it's being worn, nobody's going to go, ooh, that one tassel's a little bit shorter than the others. I don't think anybody is going to notice. So yes, now that you have seen it, I can most definitely gift that to my sister-in-law if she still likes it. And I guess that means that I can move on to works in progress. Hopefully I might be keeping this one a little bit shorter because, like I said, I'm not feeling the best today. I don't think I'm really probably going to be very exciting to listen to. But I am doing some more socks, and I can't remember, I know I mentioned these, but I don't think I showed them to you. This is one of the balls of leftovers from my no frills sweater, and I am knitting a sock because I always do like to see how my yarns knit in socks, because socks will very obviously show you most of the time if your colorway is going to sort of flash and pull. And this is sort of a little bit more of a speckly yarn, but so far it doesn't look too bad. It might be doing a little bit of spiral pulling. Perhaps you can kind of see how it's moving up. So it could be doing a little bit of spiral pulling, but on the whole I'm pretty happy with it. It's fairly random, which I always like to see out of my yarns. I don't really like, that's one of the reasons why I don't tend to dye in, I know a lot of people use a roasting pan to dye, but I personally find that yarns dyed that way do flash and pull quite a bit, and because the colour always hits the same part of the skein, so every time you get around to that section, you're obviously going to get the same colour come through. So that's why I dye my yarn in a little bit more of a painterly way. So I always do like to see when I knit something like this that it doesn't flash and pull. I don't mind microstriping. Microstriping's fine, which I'm mostly getting a microstripe on at least this side of the sock. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. This is my sheepy base, which I really like. It's my BFL sock base. It's a BFL and nylon, and it is a really lovely yarn. I really do like this for socks. It's very sturdy, it's very warm, and yeah, so I'm just going to be continuing on these. I'm mostly working on these. I've been going to pick up Simon a touch earlier every afternoon, and I've been taking these with me and knitting on them while I wait. So that's probably as quick as they'll go, is just a few 5 to 10 minutes in the afternoons waiting to pick up Simon. I did have a little go last night because I did a lot of knitting on my next whip, which I will show you in a moment. I did a lot of work on that last night, or yesterday, so I had a little bit of a break from it by knitting on my sock last night. But yeah, I think this is probably going to be fairly slow progress, although I should really knock these out really quickly because I do still have those his and hers socks to complete, because I've only done one sock each of the two colours. So why I'm starting another pair of socks and another pair of socks while I have two pairs of socks already half done, I don't know, don't ask me. Variety is the spice of life, that's all I have to say. Finally, for what I have been working on, I have picked up my weekender sweater again. So here it is here. I have finished the body. So this is the neckline here. That's the head hole. And I have finished the body. And I am on to my first sleeve. I've actually knit this and ripped it out already. Let me just pull my magic loop through so I can keep the sleeve a little bit more natural looking. And the reason that I pulled it out is because I initially, when I cast this on, I did not alternate my skeins on my bottom ribbing. So therefore I didn't actually, my use of yarn from the two different balls, so this was Blue Moon Fibre Arts, their Targhee worsted, the really big skeins that they have. They're 616 yards per skein, I believe. And I basically striped the two colourways together because I had been unable to get a second skein of the original colour that I purchased, which was this more purpley colour. So that's called Black, and then I picked up the other skein with these brown and black parts in it, and that is called Blecker. So I basically striped them together because they're quite similar colorways. One is just a little bit more purpley brown and the other one is a little more blue purple. So they're very similar, and both skeins have elements of the other ones in the colour. I assume that's why they are called quite similar names. But what I did is, because I have more of the blacker left, because I used more of the black to do my 2 cast on bands, I initially started knitting my sleeve with just the blacker on its own. So I'd started where I picked up my stitches here and did it with just that one colour, and I thought, because I had 79 grams, I believe, so about 80, almost 80 grams of yarn left, and I thought, that's fine, I'll just be able to knit a whole sleeve out of the one colour on each side and not even worry about the leftovers of the black, which was only a very small amount. However, I began running out of yarn, so I had to have a bit of a think about it, and I had a think, and I ended up pulling out the sleeve. I'd gotten like sort of down here and I ran out, so I pulled out the sleeve and I continued to do my helical knitting, which I did promise doing a video about that and I never did. Maybe I'll do it on my second no frills when that has begun. And yeah, so I started doing my helical knitting again and doing you know, one round in each colour, but then obviously because I had so much less of the black, I continued just in the blacker. And I'm basically to the point, I'll just grab my ball because it's on the ground. I split the 2, because I had obviously a ball of each, and I split each ball in half, so I knew exactly how much I would have per each sleeve. And I've gotten down to the point where I've only really got a very squishy little ball of this left, so the jumper calls for 2 inches of ribbing, and obviously my sleeve is not going to get to the 14, I think it was 14¼ inches for my size, or at least for the sleeve that is required, so I wasn't going to get anywhere near that. And so basically what I've decided to do is I have knit as far as I kind of felt that I would have enough left for the 2 inches of ribbing and the tubular bind off, because there is a tubular bind off on this. It was a tubular cast on for the bottom, and then the neckline here. It was actually really clever because I didn't realise what was going on until I saw what the finishing was, and then I'm like, oh, of course, that's why we're doing that. Because when you do a tubular bind on or cast off, you do like a slip, you do a knit slip with yarn in front to set up the stitches so that you can put them on 2 needles to Kitchener together, so that you get this continuous, it looks like it's knitted, the knitting is folded, like it looks like the knitting goes right round. So yeah, so I will need to do a tubular bind off on the sleeve. So what I thought I would do is get to the point where I thought I had enough yarn to do my 2 inches and my tubular bind off, and don't do my bind off on the first sleeve so I can make sure I can replicate the sleeve exactly on the other side. So I've all of this I don't know if this is making any sense, but so these were alternated, and then this section here where you can see it's quite a bit darker, that is just the black on its own. So what I figured I would do, it comes down to, I tried it on, it comes down to about here before the ribbing, so it's kind of, by the time the ribbing's on, it's probably going to be almost bracelet length, almost, like it's going to be a little bit further back. But what I thought I could do is just, I'm thinking of just doing the ribbing until I run out of yarn and I have just enough to do my tubular bind off, and then I can fold back the sleeve, because I don't hate it, but I don't love that there's such an abrupt shift, because even though it is sort of blended because it's a row of each through this section of the sleeve, this is quite obviously different. On the camera, I think it's a lot worse. Like that, to me, looks like from there, that is purple and that is brown on my camera screen. However, to the naked eye, there is clearly a lot of purple in there, which ties back to the rest of the sleeve. So yeah, I think possibly, we'll see how we go. I may just wear it with the cuff down, but I figure if I wear it with the cuff folded back, it won't be as big a chunk, and it will look more like it was purposefully done, that the cuff was a different colour. But this sleeve, I knit all of this yesterday, so it's not going to take very long for me to pick up and do the other sleeve. So hopefully this will be an FO by the time I talk to you next week, which would be awesome. So I haven't done any more weaving, even though I really should. I'm nearly done with my final panel for the bags anyway. But yesterday I received my order of 10 kilos of yarn for Fibre Feast, so I need to get dyeing on that because it's only about 3 weeks away now. If you are in Adelaide, I will be vending at Fibre Feast, which is being held up in Wondery. And yeah, I hope to see you there. I will have a bunch of yarn available, and yeah, I'm really excited for it. A little bit daunted, but because of the amount of work that I have between now and then, but I'm sure it will work out fine. It will be fine. It will be fine. So yeah, I hope that if you are in Adelaide, you can make it up to Fibre Feast on the 16th of March. I will include details for Fibre Feast in my newsletter from now until when it happens. So if you are interested in joining up to my newsletter to keep on top of all of the Lovebird Lane yarns news, you can do that by heading to my website at www.lovebirdlane.com, and you can sign up via the link in the top of the screen, or down below in the description. I actually do put the link down in the description, so you can do that too. My discarding. So on Sunday, Simon and I actually got him to do it. He was not happy about it. And reading Marie Kondo's book, I know she says not to force people, but Simon sometimes needs a bit of a kick in the pants, I will be honest. So we went through all of our clothing and we ended up getting rid of quite a bit. Neither of us actually, after seeing, you know, I said Simon has a lot of clothes. He actually probably has more t-shirts than anything, and a lot of them are very ratty, so that's why I thought perhaps he's got a lot more clothing. And it's actually, he didn't actually have as much as I thought, but he did have a lot that could be thrown away. He had been keeping hold of boots. He wears boots all the time, and I think we threw away 3 or 4 pairs of boots that were just, they were wrecked. The soles were falling apart. The shoelaces were all fraying. And yeah, I don't know why he had kept hold of them, but he had all of these boots that got thrown away. And in the end, we had 2 garbage bags full of rubbish, so just clothes that weren't really up to the level of donating, and we had 2 bags full of donation clothes. So I haven't quite got to, I went to try and donate them the other day, but the charity shop that I usually donate to has moved. So, and I'd actually driven past their new place twice on my way to drop something off for my mother-in-law and then come back and drop off my donations. I actually, in that trip, drove past their new address twice, which really made me kick myself. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to go back down there because I was doing it all on the way to pick Simon up from work, and by that time I still had to put petrol in the car and I wasn't going to make it to Simon in time. So the 2 bags are still in the boot of the car at the moment, but that's okay. And I've since been through my jewellery, so I've discarded a lot. I've sort of weeded it down and organised it a little bit better. So I'm trying to make an effort to wear more of the jewellery that I own. Hence I've got a necklace on today. I've got another ring on today. So yeah, I have all of this stuff that I really like, and I've forgotten about most of it, to be honest, because it was up in a jewellery box, and I've gone through my jewellery box and gotten rid of a bunch of stuff. I mean, none of none of my jewellery really is very high value. My wedding rings are probably the highest value, and they're not worth very much. I mean, they're worth more than money to me, but you know what I mean, like to purchase them, they weren't the most expensive rings. So yeah, most of the jewellery I've just donated. I've just put in a bag to donate. So yeah, I've whittled everything down. So that's probably it. I've not really done anything exciting. I've started watching a new show on Netflix, and that is Dirty John. If you recognize that name, it could be because you have heard the podcast. I believe it was a Wondery podcast, and I listened to it when it came out. I listened to Dirty John all the way through, and it was just such a fascinating and disturbing podcast. It's definitely a good one if you like true crime. Only, I don't want to give any spoilers, but it's not a very gruesome, it's more of a con man type situation. So that's a really, really great podcast. And I've started watching the television sort of adaptation. I haven't listened to the podcast for a little while, so I can't remember exactly how close the show is to the podcast, but I'm actually quite enjoying it. Yeah, so Dirty John, I'm really enjoying. I think I smashed through about 4 or 5 episodes yesterday, and yeah, I really was enjoying them. And Netflix is doing this thing where you almost don't realize that the next episode is starting, and I was sitting there and I was going, gosh, this episode feels long. I thought it was only like 50 something minutes. I'm like, this episode feels really long. And then when I paused it, I realized I was on episode 3. So that's how quickly I kind of went through them. So yeah, I might sit down a little bit later and see if I can catch an episode after I edit this. So I think I might leave it there. I think that's all I really have energy for. And yes, so I hope you have enjoyed. I know it's a little bit, I think I'm a little bit flatter today, but hopefully it hasn't affected my performance too badly. And I hope you all enjoyed. If you did and you're not subscribed, please go down there and click the subscribe button, and of course leave me a comment, give me a thumbs up. All of that helps with YouTube and getting my podcast seen by more people, which would be wonderful. And yes, so happy crafting, have a wonderful week, please stay safe, and I will see you back here next week. Enjoy.